Good evening, everyone. My name is Gail Giles Gidney and I'm Mayor of Willoughby City Council, and what a pleasure it is to be here with you this evening for our Community Information Seminar. We engage regularly with our community on the fourth Monday of the month with a variety of topics. And the topic tonight is around crime prevention and e-safety. And certainly we are all concerned about keeping our families and indeed ourselves safe. And tonight we're going to be discussing everything you need to know about protecting yourself and your loved ones. And we're really pleased tonight to be joined by Jenny Brown, who is from the North Shore Police Crime Prevention Area. And you're going to be sharing your expertise, Jenny. We're really looking forward to that.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Gail. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Oh, pleasure. And we'll be hearing from you shortly. And we're also going to be receiving some practical tips from the Australian Government e-safety website, cyber.gov.au, about how to protect your devices and prevent cybercrime. And we're really pleased that we're going to be joined by Brad Herring, who is Council's Chief Information Officer at the coalface right here at Council. And we're going to have the opportunity for questions. And so please feel free to send those through and through the chat function, and we'll be doing the Q&A at the end of each presentation. And there will be opportunity also to ask further questions at the end of the presentations. And also joined tonight by our CEO, Deborah Just. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you, Mega.
Lovely to be here. And before we head into the presentations, Deborah, I'd just like to take a moment to ask you about what inspired you for this topic tonight.
Well, I think we all appreciate that the more sophisticated technology gets, also the more sophisticated criminal activity does too. So I think we've seen an increase in scams, threats, and also cyber activity as well. So there are a lot of people. We're a very diverse city. Families make up 35% of our population. So there are a lot of parents out there who are concerned in terms of their children's safety. Similarly, we have quite a large older population, senior population too, who may be vulnerable from time to time to these scams. So the key to this, if we're going to have a resilient society around good use of technology, is very much around knowledge, and that's what this evening's presentations are about.
Fantastic. And I also understand that Council itself was targeted.
Yes, like many organisations during the pandemic, we got regular phishing and attempted breaches. So our IT team had to be very quick and very nimble and defend our systems, which they did admirably. And we'll hear from Brad, as you said, a bit later on this evening to give some more tips to the general population around cybersecurity.
Wow, interesting when you've got a big organisation like this that's targeted as well. So we look forward to hearing further from Brad in that respect. So we're now going to head into our presentations this evening. And as I mentioned, we're joined by Senior Constable Jenny Brown, the Crime Prevention Officer from the North Shore Police Area Command. And Jenny's had 13 years experience with the police and 3 years as the Crime Prevention Officer. And her first presentation is Crime Prevention, Protecting Yourself at Home and in the Streets to Scams, Rip-Offs and Identity Threats. So over to you, Jenny.
Thank you very much, Mayor Gail. So, yes, as the introduction said, my first presentation will just be some crime prevention tips relating to some of the crimes that do get reported on the North Shore. So, yeah, I've made this presentation very relevant to the local community because we are getting reports of some of these types of crimes quite regularly. So, okay, I will start off with just safety at home. So probably the two of the most important things I want to point out on this list is locking your doors and windows, the second point there, which to a lot of people probably seems very obvious, but we do get a lot of reports of break and enters where doors and windows have been left open. So, and it's a, common mistake, I guess, that anyone can make. I've done it myself. So just an important message there to just make sure that you lock up your doors and windows, even at night when you're home and you're asleep. And so the top one there, trim hedges and trees. So that's, I know we all like our privacy. We like to have hedges around our home and trees for privacy, but just keep in mind that it does create an opportunity for people to conceal themselves around your home. Secure your car keys. So the reason I've got that point there is that we are getting a few crimes reported lately, and this is not just the North Shore, it's actually affecting other parts of Sydney as well, where criminals are breaking into homes just to steal expensive cars like Mercedes and BMWs. And they're stealing those cars by breaking into the home and finding the car keys. And in some cases, they will break into the home and all they'll take is the car key. So it's obvious that they're just targeting those high performance vehicles. And then a lot of the time that it might be just to get into pursuits or just to joyride the cars. Photograph your valuables or keep a record of them. So that's things like your jewellery. It makes it a lot easier for police to identify your goods or your jewellery that gets stolen if you have a photograph of it. It can sometimes turn up later. We might find it in a search warrant or when we search a criminal. If you hear a noise at night, turn on the lights. Call police if you feel unsafe, and in emergencies, always call 000. Okay, just safety while out. So as that picture there suggests, it's always important to be very observant of your surroundings. Carry your bag or wallet in front of your body or close to your body. Secure your bag in the car before loading the groceries. So there are cases people might get distracted, have their bag in the shopping trolley while they're loading the groceries. Someone or an opportunistic thief will come along and take it while they're not watching. Just a personal safety thing, minimise your waiting time for trains or buses, and use a busy train station or bus stop, which, you know, generally isn't a problem in Chatswood, I don't think. So motor vehicles. So this is a common crime that gets reported a fair bit to us, is theft from motor vehicles. So important to make sure you don't leave any valuables in your car, particularly wallets, laptops. Okay, and then get your keys ready before you reach your car. So that's, again, just a personal safety thing. When you're heading to your car, to have your keys ready. You don't want to be fumbling around for your keys at night. Okay, I'll move on to identity theft and fraud. So this is probably, I think, not as common this year, I've found, but back pre-COVID, 2019, we were probably getting at North Shore Police about 5 reports a week of identity theft. So, and that's just residents of the North Shore. So just some stats I've got there. The cost of identity theft so far this year in Australia has been $2.5 million. So it continues to be a key enabler of serious and organised crime, which in turn costs Australia $15 billion annually. So what is identity theft? So it's basically when someone's using your personal information to obtain some kind of benefit. So credit, money, goods, etc., without your consent. So it can range from just your credit card details being used online to purchase something, right through to someone opening bank accounts in your name. So before I was a crime prevention officer, I've got an example of this. When I was in general duties, I did take a report over the front counter of the police station from a gentleman who he'd had his identity stolen and had accounts opened with 5 different financial institutions. He was a man from Willoughby, and I know for these poor people that it happens to, it can be quite a nightmare. Like he pretty much had to blacklist himself for credit to stop them using his identity to obtain credit. So yeah, it makes it very difficult for people to obtain credit once they've had their identity stolen, and to you know, it involves like hours of signing stat decks to get out of the debt that can be caused. So yeah, it's a very big headache for people. So often, yeah, people won't even know that they've been a victim of identity theft until they start receiving letters from debt collectors, unfortunately, and then very difficult to restore their financial reputation, once that happens. So how does it happen? So they can steal your wallet or purse, which contains a lot of your personal information on your license, your credit cards, your Medicare cards. Your home or car could be broken into and personal documents stolen. Probably the most prominent one there is that your mail can be stolen from your mailbox. So this happens a lot. We're getting a lot of criminals stealing mail from people's mailboxes, and then they're selling identity documents onto criminal syndicates, which are then adopting people's identities. So they can you can have your personal details obtained over the internet as well, which I'll explain a bit later how that can happen. So mail theft. So there are some ways or some things you can do to prevent mail theft. So lock your mailbox. A lot of the standard locks that are on apartment building mailboxes are not really very good because the criminals have a master key for those. So it's not a bad idea to actually get another lock on your mailbox if you live in a large apartment block, and don't just rely on the standard lock that you get with your mailbox. Clear your mailbox daily. Collect your credit cards from the bank rather than having them mailed to you if you can. Have your mail held at a post office or collected by a friend when you go away. And parcels, have them delivered somewhere secure or to somebody. So this is another thing that's on the rise, it seems, is parcel theft. So there's a lot of people taking advantage of the fact that people are having parcels delivered, and they may sit there all day before they get home from work. And it's probably very opportunistic. People walk past, they see the parcel, they take it. So important to try and secure your parcels. Okay, scams. So according to ScamWatch, in 2020 in Australia, $175 million was lost with scams. A lot of scams reported majority of scams reported that they use phishing. And scammers actually are very good at what they do, particularly the ones on the telephone that call you. They're friendly, they're very confident, they're professional, they come across as being very legitimate, and they prey on your emotions such as hope, greed or fear. So they're very clever. So current top scams in Australia, investment scams. So that's basically like people convincing you to invest in things that aren't legitimate. Dating and romance scams. So I think there's a slide explaining that later. False billing, which I'll explain later. Remote access scams, threats to life, arrest or other, identity theft, and online shopping. So dating scams. So the scammers basically create a fake profile and build a relationship with someone using that fake profile. And I have actually, back in general duties, took probably the worst one I can recall, a dating scam, was a poor lady who'd lost about $60,000. Yeah, because she had she met a guy on one of those dating websites. He probably wasn't who he said he was, I imagine. And then she got, and he actually, like, I saw the series of emails that were between the two of them, and this guy or this person basically groomed her over a period of months and convinced her that they had a kind of relationship going. And that, you know, he promised that he would come to Australia one day and meet her and they could be together. And then one day he sent her an email saying, I'm stuck in Africa somewhere. I've got some big problem. There's always some big problem that they need money for urgently, and convinced her to send money to him in Africa via Western Union. And then, yeah, it turned out to be a scam. So very heartbreaking for the lady, not to mention the financial loss, but also the I guess, emotional effect it has on people. So threat and penalty scams. So I think probably a lot of people have had one of these, a call from the ATO or the ATO, not really the ATO, saying that you have a tax debt and if you don't pay it, the police are going to arrest you. Yeah, it's a scam. Don't believe it. And the Chinese embassy scam, this is actually one that's been targeting Mandarin-speaking people. It's a recorded message in Mandarin warning that they have to pay money or they're going to be reported to the Chinese authorities and deported back to China. So online shopping scams. So that top one there, advertise items for sale that don't exist. So one of the big ones we're getting reported at the moment about that one, or about that top point, is puppies.
Oh.
So people are advertising puppies online, and I think fleecing people out of thousands of dollars for these puppies, and then the puppy never turns up. They promise to send it from interstate. They're usually in Western Australia or somewhere far away. And then the person pays the money, the puppy doesn't arrive. People intervening between buyers and sellers, email fake PayPal receipts. So I've seen reports of this one as well, where somebody will be selling something online and the seller will, the person buying the product will say, I'll pay by PayPal. And then the seller receives a PayPal receipt by email. So they send out the goods, and the paper and the email turns out to be fake. So the safest way to get around that one is probably to don't just go on the email receipt you get from PayPal. Actually go in and check your PayPal account and make sure that the money has gone into your account. And then fake retailer websites is just another one. So things to be wary of if you're shopping online. Now, this one is really on the rise at the moment too, the business email compromise. So there's somehow, criminals are somehow sort of hacking into people's emails, I guess, intervening into correspondence that's going back and forth via email, and then sending an email using an email address that's very similar to the known source, and pretending to be that source, and then doing invoices with different bank accounts and convincing businesses to send money to the wrong bank account. So I've got a good example of this one, which was tied up with another kind of fraud. So years ago, I had a man come in, I think he was from Neutral Bay or something, reported basically this business email compromise where the person had sent an email from an address very similar to his business associate, an email address, I mean, and asked him to deposit some money into a bank account. He did that. They worked out it was a fraud. So reported it, we investigated it. So the first thing I did obviously was found out where the money had gone. It was gone into a bank account in South Australia. So we got the South Australian police to go and knock on the door of that account holder. And it turns out that the lady holding that account had been a victim of a romance scam. Oh. And she basically met a guy on a dating website, and he had said to her, oh, I'm going to send you, one of my friends is going to send you some money into your bank account, and I need you to then transfer the money overseas, basically, which she did. Yeah. And she was just basically a what do we call it? Well, she was just being used really as part of the scam. And the poor woman ended up having all the bank accounts frozen, and because the bank obviously thought she was involved, but yeah. So I'll just go back. Yeah, employee impersonation. So this one's been reported to us as well, where they will actually contact a staff member of a particular organisation, pretending usually to be the boss, and asking that staff member to buy usually iTunes cards or something like that. And it'll turn out to be fraud or a scam. So
Jenny, you might notice the staff are laughing over there because it did actually happen to us.
Oh, okay.
Receipt of an email from me requesting iTunes gift cards.
Oh, really? Oh, there you go.
so we've actually had that one play out here.
Yeah, well,
fortunately caught early.
Yeah, well, I've actually seen a few reports of it, and one poor girl maxed out the company credit card that she was given, and then when the boss, who she thought was the boss, was asking her to buy more iTunes cards, she went and used her own credit card. Oh, no. She obviously wanted to keep the boss happy. Yeah. And yeah, it was just a big scam, poor girl. Mm. So phishing scams, so that's just attempts by scammers to trick you into giving out personal information, such as your bank account details. They'll appear genuine and will appear to come from a legitimate source. So I think I've got an example on the next slide. So here is an example of just an email, dear customer, and it appears to be from a bank. During an automated an automated audit on this date, we discovered discrepancies in your account. And then they'll say, you know, click on this link to verify the information. And then when you click on the link, I think our IT expert over here can probably explain better what's happening there. But I think you're basically introducing some kind of spyware or malware into your device or computer when you click on that link. So yeah, just be aware of any links in any unsolicited emails. Protect yourself. So treat your personal information like it's cash. Shred your documents. Secure your personal information at home. Don't leave personal documents in your car, and cut up all your old credit cards. Don't be coerced into signing or paying anything immediately. So always take your time and verify who you're dealing with. Read everything carefully and beware of unusual payment methods. So I just want to point out that there's nothing wrong with iTunes or Western Union. They're perfectly legitimate businesses, but they do get occasionally used in fraud. So if someone's requesting payment via either of those, it's probably good to be a bit vigilant. So keep track of your finances. So this is probably an important one if you're ever unlucky enough to notice that your mail gets stolen. Mail theft is often a precursor to identity theft. So if you do notice mail stolen, it's probably a good time to start doing things like regularly checking your statements and your credit reports as well. Be wary of organisations cold calling or sending emails with links. So this is usual cyber safety that hopefully a lot of us are doing already, changing passwords regularly, using latest protection software. Be careful of unsolicited emails and attachments and links. Don't provide personal information to unverified sources. And just to report crime on the North Shore, there's a number there for Chatswood Police Station, the police assistance line. You can report crime as well. We now have a New South Wales Police community portal where you can report crime or some types of crime online, always in an emergency, ring 000. Please don't go online to that site. Scam Watch, if you find yourself being scammed, if there's any financial loss in a scam, you should report it to the police. If there's no financial loss, then report it to Scam Watch. Cybercrime there, identity, if you are a victim of identity theft, ID Care is a good website to visit. Okay, and time for questions.
Yeah, really good information. Thanks, Jenny. And great to highlight some of those situations that you can get yourself into. I'm just wondering, and it's happened to me, that you aren't paying attention and you open an email and then next thing you know, you've clicked on a link. What do you do besides panic? Not panic. What do you suggest in that instance where you've actually unwittingly opened a link and you think afterwards?
If you do think it could be malicious, yes, it's probably good to have an IT expert come in and examine your device or computer for viruses.
Right. Yeah, just to make sure that you haven't linked.
Yeah.
Unwittingly.
And that's another reason why it's always good to make sure you've got all the protection software there already.
Right.
Because hopefully that'll give you some protection from viruses.
Yeah, prevention's a really good idea to start off with. And what about sometimes you get an email and you're not sure if it's legit or not? How do you determine whether or not it's a legitimate email address?
Well, I think you can call the person that it's from or that they're posing to be from. Actually, I've got a good example of this only this morning.
Yeah.
My mum, I was talking to my mum on the phone. She received an email from her local Woolworths and it actually said, "Hi, this is from Sam Jones or something, your local Woolworths manager from Woolworths and the suburb that she lives in, that my mum and dad live in." So the first thing she did, she just thought, oh, this looks sus. So she rang the local Woolworths and said, "What's the name of your manager? And is this your manager?" And they said, "No, we've never heard of him." So, and that email was actually saying something along the lines of that she had some, I think it was some credit or something like that. And obviously there was a link there for her to click on, which she didn't, luckily. So, so you can always call the people that if it's pretending to be from a bank or from another a supermarket or something, just call them and ask them and verify it,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. I've also noticed sometimes if you get an email from an organisation and then if you click on the full details of the address, it bears no bearing to the bank or whatever. It's got some random.
That is another way. You can hover the mouse over the email address and see if it looks legit or not.
Yeah.
But I'm probably giving a less technical explanation for the less tech savvy people out there would be just to make a phone call.
Yeah, which is really helpful too. I know I've got a friend who's got elderly parents and they're being scammed. The old Nigerian, we're going to find an inheritance for you.
Inheritance.
Yeah, and they've lost so much money. It's not funny. Yeah. So is there any help for the elderly or any tips for the elderly, do you think, that you can offer if you're worried about your parents being scammed?
Yeah, well, always verify who you're dealing with, and if it sounds too good to be true, it probably isn't true.
Yeah, and sometimes it's difficult to convince the elderly that they really don't have a brother in Ireland that's going to send $500,000. Yeah, it's a very tricky one, isn't it? And from your experience with the police, what are the most reported situations where people have experienced thefts outside the home, and what should we be wary of there?
Well, thefts outside the home, I'd probably say theft from motor vehicle is one of the highest types of theft. I know things like robberies where you get that's actually quite rare on the North Shore. We don't get too many reports of that. In fact, most of our robbery reports are young kids robbing other young kids of their phones or their shoes or their nice clothes. We rarely get reports of older people getting robbed. We did have one recently where a man advertised a very expensive Rolex online and then agreed to meet someone to do an exchange. I think it was worth quite a bit of money, $30,000 or something. So in that type of situation, it's always a good idea to, if you are going to meet someone to sell something that's quite expensive like that, to meet somewhere really public or somewhere safe. Don't agree to meet people where there'll be no one around. And obviously you don't want to get that property out and be showing it to anyone until you can sort of establish that they're a legitimate buyer and that they've got the cash there to pay for it. And
yeah, it's a bit of a minefield, isn't it?
So that's probably the main case, Gail, where we get robberies like that reported, is usually people selling stuff online and then agreeing to meet someone somewhere to do the exchange, and then the people will turn up and just basically snatch it and run off.
Right, yeah. I know the one that I had a problem with. We bought a brand new TV and that old trick of leaving the cardboard box that the TV had arrived. Right. So then the robbers knew that we had a brand new TV and then they came and stole the brand new TV.
Yeah, so, well, we don't get a lot of TV stolen anymore. More jewellery and handbags around here.
Oh, okay.
It's a big thing. A lot of people obviously designer handbags, the ones that are worth thousands of dollars. Like a lot of our reports of break and enters, they've stolen jewellery, handbags, cash, and car keys.
Wow, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, they have very expensive taste, the robbers around here.
Oh, okay.
The thieves around here.
Good quality robber then. Fantastic. So, Jenny, you're talking to us about a second topic this evening, and that's child online safety. So things like grooming, minimising unwanted contact, personal image sharing and cyberbullying. And I know this is going to be great interest for lots of people who are concerned about their safety of their children. So over to you for that.
So, I mean, this isn't something that gets reported probably as commonly as other crime, thank goodness. But it's just something that we all need to be aware of and careful of. So, yeah, I've got a presentation here prepared about some child online safety. Okay, so, I mean, this slide basically, actually, before I do go into the presentation, I just wanted to point out to anyone who's listening that some of the content in this presentation may not be appropriate for small children. It is prepared for parents mainly. So just a heads up if there's any small children in the room.
And you can guarantee now the adults will want to look at it closely.
Maybe, yeah. So I mean, the information on this first slide, it's basically saying, you know, that technology is everywhere these days. We can't avoid it. We can't hide our children from technology. They're all growing up with it. It's a massive part of their lives, and we need to learn how to keep them safe while they use it. So I was surprised by that statistic, an average number of 7 devices per household. And 97% of households with children under 15 have access to the internet. That's probably not so surprising, I guess, these days. So with the internet, with all its benefits, presents new dangers to kids, and parents need to be aware of these dangers. So parents need to be involved with their children's internet experience, and teaching children how to handle themselves on the internet is important. So there are also filtering software packages, website rating schemes designed to help parents guide their children's internet experience and still allow them to be a little independent on the internet. So I've just got a quote here from the Queensland Police. Criminal offenders are highly skilled at exploiting new modes of communication to gain access to children and young people. Children and young people can easily access adults-only material if there are no protective mechanisms in place. So that's quite a scary thought there. So, I mean, if the criminal offenders are all over these new modes of communication, then the parents need to be too, to keep the kids safe. So what is online grooming? So online grooming is basically when an adult uses the internet to make contact with someone under the age of 16 with the intention of establishing a sexual relationship. So the legislation behind it, so this just relates to grooming. So it is a crime under the crime, or an offence under the Crimes Act. An adult person who intentionally procures a child for unlawful sexual activity is guilty of an offence. A child is defined in the Crimes Act as a person under the age of 16. So where can online grooming happen? Well, you've got your messaging apps, social media, gaming sites, emails, chat rooms. Many parents may not be aware that chat functions appear on several popular online games, applications and social networking platforms. Anonymous chat can provide a platform for online child sex offenders to target young people. So who is your child talking to? Beware of the connections your children are making. Not everyone online is who they say they are. So an example I want to give of this particular slide is there was a case that I heard of a couple of years ago. A boy who was about 14 or 15 years old was made friends with someone, or made contact with someone online, posing as a 13-year-old girl, sent him nude pictures of a 13-year-old girl that he thought was the person that he'd made friends with, of course, and then asked that boy to send pictures back, still posing obviously as the 13-year-old girl. So he did. And then that online predator then started to blackmail that boy to send more pictures. And the boy was terrified. Like he actually threatened to get the pictures that he'd sent and post them to all his social media contacts. And so he's terrified. So he sent more pictures. And then it got to a point where he was scared to tell his parents about what had happened. He felt, you know, that he'd get in trouble about what he'd done. So this is why it's very important that we need to talk to our children and make them understand that, like, well, I guess what I say to my daughter is someone you're talking to on the internet is a stranger, just like a man in the street that you don't know is a stranger. This person is a stranger. Even though you think it's a child, it may not be. So minimise unwanted contact, use nicknames online, don't disclose your address or phone numbers, don't post photos that show identity or location. For example, like some parents might like to post pictures of their child's first day at school on Facebook, but then you're basically saying, oh, hi everyone, I've got a 5-year-old and this is the school they go to. So you just have to be aware of that. Keep communication open. So that's with your children. Always be talking to them about what they're doing online. They shouldn't meet anyone they have met online without permission. Check your security settings and consider disabling chat functions on some of the apps they're using or games they're playing. So supervision, very important. have the computer or device out in the lounge room or somewhere where you can supervise what they're doing and they're not just hidden alone in their bedroom. Stay engaged with their online activity. Explore the online world with them so it doesn't become a solitary thing. Think about their readiness for social media and build resilience. So know the parental control options that are available. Be clear about the rules online. Know the device your children are using. Know how they're using that device. Ensure the devices are protected by a password or PIN so your child cannot accidentally come across inappropriate content. Okay, so I'll move on now to personal image sharing. So a lot of people may know that as sexting. It often gets referred to. So it basically just means sharing of sexually explicit photos. So once posted, you never know where the images will end up. So we did get a report on the North Shore of a young girl on Snapchat who was offered money for, so someone made friends with her on Snapchat and offered her money for nude pictures. I think she was 14 or something. So something to be aware of. So because some kids might love the opportunity of earning $200 or $300. So yeah, some of the images are meant to disappear, but they can be saved. So some of those things like Snapchat where they think the image won't be saved, it can be. So, and then stored without you knowing. So if you become aware of sexual or naked videos or photos of your child online, report them to the platform and have them removed. If you think they're malicious or a result of grooming, you should contact the police. So I've just got some legislation there as well about just basically sexual images of children. It is an offence, production, dissemination or possession of child abuse material under the Crimes Act. So the government did relax some of the laws a few years ago in relation to children sending other children images. But it says in the legislation now that proceedings against a child or young person must be instituted or approved by the Department of Public Prosecutions. So encourage open discussions with your children about what content they're sharing. Talk about some tactics they could use if they feel pressured to send images. Avoid judging and labelling and consider seeking advice from support services. So I'll just also cover cyberbullying. So that's basically behaviour such as sending abusive messages, hurtful images or videos, nasty online gossip. If your child is being cyberbullied, there's a really good website, esafety.gov.au, that gives a lot of great advice. If your child's physical safety is at risk, then you should call the police. So in relation to cyberbullying, in some cases it can be classed as a telecommunications offence, which that's basically using a carriage service to menace, harass or cause offence. And a carriage service basically just means a phone, a computer. So phone calls, text messages, emails, social media messaging can all be offences under, or can all be classed as a telecommunications offence. And just some good resources there in regards to e-safety for kids. Think You Know is a good one. That's the Australian Federal Police. E-safety, Kids Guardian, and just phone numbers for the police station and Crime Stoppers.
Yeah. So people can just phone the police station if they're worried. Can they? You'll give them advice. How does that work?
People, sorry?
If they're worried about their children or cyberbullying or any of these issues that you've raised, the grooming, they can just phone the local police station?
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Oh, that's good. And we note that there were a lot of resources there, and this will be available after tonight. So if you missed those details, you can certainly go and have a look at the slideshow again. Lots of great information. You mentioned about cyberbullying.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of signs should parents be looking for if they're worried about their children? Are there general signs that you could tell? Because sometimes kids are very private and they don't share or discuss with the parents. Are there telltale signs that there might be a problem?
I mean, if the cyberbullying is relating to people at school, you may find they're becoming disengaged from school a little bit, not wanting to go to school. They might be, not their normal happy self. I guess they might be a bit more anxious. These are probably questions better for a psychologist or someone like that to answer. But
yeah. Okay. And
so,
also just got a question about cyberbullying. Does it relate to children or adults as well?
Well, adults can certainly probably benefit from looking at there is information relating to adults on that e-safety website, and the telecommunications offences can relate to adults or children, yes, to anyone.
Yeah. I guess with the prevalence of social media these days, I've certainly seen some sort of eyebrow-raising exchanges on social media between adults, and this is in the adult world, so I can imagine that people would be not feeling very comfortable about those exchanges either. And we've had some terrible outcomes from Twitter trolls and all sorts. So
and a lot of famous people I've noticed are often subject to that.
Yeah, I know as mayor that I received some unsavoury comments on some points, but I certainly just try to remove myself from that, or if there's a particular troublesome person, I look at blocking them and making sure that they go through appropriate channels rather than leaving anonymous messages with sometimes fake accounts. So yeah, we all need to be vigilant about it, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do recommend that anyone who's concerned about cyberbullying or any online behaviour should really check out that e-safety website. There's just so much information on there that I obviously couldn't put into.
Yeah, fantastic. And I know that the schools too can be a great source of support.
Yes.
Yeah, the counsellors at schools can be absolutely fantastic support, and they will have access to all these resources, I imagine, that you've outlined too. Yeah. Well, interesting job that you have, Jenny. I don't know if I'd like to do it myself, but thank you so much for sharing your time with us this evening. It's been some terrific information. Lots of things to be aware of out there in the community, not only for children, who said, but adults as well. And we advise everyone to keep informed as to what you can and can't do and what to do if you've got a problem. And of course, the police is a great resource in itself. And we do thank you for all you do in our community.
Thank you.
We have a terrific relationship with the police here in the city of Willoughby. Good to know that we're not being overwhelmed by crime, but I guess what you're saying tonight is to be vigilant.
Yes.
Yeah, vigilant and protect yourself. So, and don't be silly. Common sense approach. Yeah. Thank you, Jenny. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we're going to move now to Deborah. And Deborah, as you mentioned earlier, Willoughby is a very diverse community. I think we've got over 45% of our people living in the city of Willoughby born overseas, which is great. We love our cultural diversity. But what kind of resources or help does council provide to the different groups in our community to support their very different needs?
Thank you, Gail. Yes, for the Call community, the Mosaic Multicultural Centre runs workshops and online forums in different languages. So I think that's a good starting point for Call community. Our Doherty Centre runs services too for seniors, and similarly our youth services really target youth as well. But we don't leave out anybody in the city, so the library runs a series of tech workshops. And you can find all of those details on the website as well, on council's website. And Brad will be able to give us some more useful tips as well too.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's a nice segue, isn't it, to our next presenter. Welcome, Brad Herring.
Thank you, Gail.
Yeah, it's lovely
to be here.
Well, lovely to see you here in the hot seat, shall we say. Going to be talking to us about tips from cyber.gov.au, the website, which has a large range of resources for many different groups. And over to you to tell us what that's all about.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here, and a great opportunity to share some of the tools and resources with you to help try and keep you safe whilst you're online. The first safety step is to secure your mobile device or tablet. Set a password, PIN, passcode, gesture or fingerprint that must be entered to unlock the device. Don't forget to put pins on your SIM card and voicemail, and ensure your device is set to unlock, also to automatically lock. It's important to record the International Mobile Equipment Identifier, which is normally known as the IMEI, of your device. Your IMEI is a 15 or 17-digit number, often printed on a label under the battery or found in the settings under general information about your device. If your device is lost or stolen, report this number to the provider and they can stop the device from being used. The police will also ask for this number if you report the device as missing. It's very similar to the serial number on the back of a TV that most people were quite used to recording for insurance purposes and things like that. Also try to ensure that remote locking and or wiping functions are enabled for your device if it supports them, so that if your device is lost or stolen, you can actually wipe it so that the data can't be used. You should also try and install reputable security software that includes antivirus and anti-theft or loss protection. Your device's retailer or service provider can help provide recommendations, and only install applications from official device application store such as the Apple Store or Google Play Store. Try to also use the device's automatic update features to install new application and operating systems as soon as they are available. These updates often include security patches that make your device more secure. Set your device to require a password before applications are installed. This prevents unauthorized modifications to the device. Something similar to what Constable Jenny mentioned earlier, that if you did click one of those links, that might actually install software on your device. So making sure that there's a password that prevents this from happening is one safeguard to stop that. Parental controls can also be used for your children's devices to prevent applications from being installed. Leave Bluetooth turned off or in an undiscoverable mode, that is hidden when you're not using it, which will prevent people from connecting to your device via Bluetooth unwantedly. Ensure your device does not automatically connect to new networks without your confirmation, and I'll touch on a little bit more about why and how later. Okay, now that we've secured the device, let's secure the information that's on it. I can't stress how important it is to back up your data on your device regularly, either with a backup application or by manually syncing the device with a computer. Unfortunately, this is a lesson that is often only learnt the first time you lose all of your family photos. And I can definitely attest to not doing this as the IT guy who should always back their stuff up. Sometimes we don't. On my own devices, and I have lost some pretty treasured photos. And like I said, once you do it once, you probably won't do it again. So back up, back up, back up. Don't save passwords or PINs as contacts on your phone. Something that probably a lot of people try to do to try and help remember, but it's not a good idea. Enable device encryption to protect personal data stored on your phone where possible. Encryption encodes the data on your mobile device so that only you can read it. This ensures that data from your phone can't be downloaded and read if it's lost or stolen. And if you are selling your device or recycling it, thoroughly remove all of your data from it, all of your personal details, and you can also install apps that help you wipe the phone before you pass it on to somebody else. Okay, the apps on your phone can provide access to your device and information without you knowing it. So check the privacy permissions carefully when you install new apps on your device, and only install apps from reputable vendors. Where you can, make apps or profiles private and password protected. Parents can install apps on your child's phone which prevents them from installing apps. You can find these by doing an internet search for parental control apps. Okay, now that we've protected your device and the information on it, let's talk about your home Wi-Fi. Your internet connection is a way for you to interact with the outside world, but it also provides a connection into you and your family's computers and mobile devices. If your internet connection isn't secure, someone may use it to steal your personal or financial information for malicious purposes. If you don't take steps to protect your internet connection, they could be used illegally without your knowledge. The box that provides your internet and home Wi-Fi is known as a router, and you normally get this from your internet service provider, such as Telstra, TPG, and other companies. A question for everybody: are you still using the Wi-Fi password that came with your router? If you are, you should change it. Change it to a passphrase that is unique to your family and is hard to guess. Another question for you: when was the last time you changed your Wi-Fi password? Although it's painful, it's a good idea to change it a few times a year. And it also gets the kids out of their bedrooms to talk to you, to ask for the new password. Ensure remote management is disabled. Remote management on your modem or router can allow you to make changes to your internet connection, including passwords, by logging into your device via the internet. By disabling this function, you are protecting yourself from unauthorized people remotely accessing your router and tampering with it. Consider enabling the guest Wi-Fi feature on your Wi-Fi for visitors that need access. This way, you don't have to share your actual Wi-Fi password with them, and you can cycle the guest Wi-Fi password as needed without having to reset all your wireless devices. You should ensure that your router has the latest software installed, known as firmware. Just like new software updates for your computer, new firmware for your router will provide improved features and address any security vulnerabilities. To find out which firmware is installed on your router, some have a button you can click to automatically check if a more recent version is available. If not, you can log into the device and check its settings. I'd also suggest that you use your internet service provider to help you with this. Because wireless networks don't need a wire between the computer and the internet connection, it is possible for anyone within range to intercept the signal and collect your data if it's unprotected. This means you need to use the strongest encryption provided by your router. Again, this can be quite difficult, so it's a great idea to give your internet service provider a call and get them to help you set up strong encryption on your router. Once you do it, you don't have to do it again. It's set and forget. Okay, let's talk about public Wi-Fi. Public Wi-Fi hotspots in places like cafes, airports, hotels, and libraries are convenient, but they can also be risky. When you connect to the Westfield's free Wi-Fi, do you really know if this is Westfield or someone else's phone pretending to be Westfield? What you should do, if possible, is confirm the official hotspot name from the venue staff and manually connect your device to it. Don't let your device automatically connect to the first hotspot it finds. When you are using public Wi-Fi, we suggest that you avoid sending or receiving valuable or sensitive information, such as banking or other private information. Save this for your now secure home Wi-Fi or your mobile data. You should also turn off network discovery options like remember networks this device has joined to prevent it from just automatically connecting to networks that you're not sure about. And really importantly, make sure you turn off file sharing. If you have file sharing turned on and you connect to a public Wi-Fi or hotspot, your files can be accessed by everybody else who's connected to the same hotspot. Constable Jenny earlier mentioned that on average, there's 7 devices in a household. If you then start to add in all of the other smart devices such as Google Home, smart TVs, washing machines, you can get up to about 17 devices on average in our homes. These are very convenient, but they also open up more ways for cyber criminals to enter our homes. So you might want to think about setting up some rules for your house for any device that needs to connect to the internet. One of these rules might be that everybody must use strong and unique passwords. And like I said earlier, remember when you first buy a device, make sure you change the factory password that came with it. You might also consider turning on a second step of protection with what's called two-factor authentication. This is where you're prompted to provide a code that's texted to you, similar to what you would be used to when you use your banking app. You should also secure all of your devices and online accounts. Turn on automatic software updates to ensure your devices are covered by the latest security protection. And like I said earlier, install antivirus software where possible and back up the data. Always download apps from the official store, such as Apple Store or Google Play. And like I said, turn on the automatic updates to make sure that these apps are up to date and don't have security issues with them. You might want to also think about turning off the smart features of devices that you aren't using. So if you do have a smart washing machine, but you never use those functions, don't connect it to the internet and turn off those features. Sorry. When you are searching on your social networks, choose what information you want to share. By default, a lot of these applications share everything. So you really need to be careful, and you need to go into the settings and choose which personal information that you'd like to make available. Think about the information that you share, like birthdays, ages, addresses, or your school. It can be used to crack passwords if people are using those kind of details for their passwords, which we don't recommend. And as we talked about earlier, never click on suspicious or unknown links in emails, SMS, or social media messages. Unfortunately, these days, we pretty much treat everything as suspicious until we know otherwise. And when you are on social media or gaming, you might want to think about using nicknames or alternative profile pictures so that you can't be identified. All of the information that's been provided tonight is available at that web address, cyber.gov.au, which is the Australian Cyber Security Centre. There's lots of valuable information, tips, tools to help you stay safe online. And there's some other links that I've put in the presentation as well, which will provide lots more information to help you stay safe.
Oh, great information. Thanks, Brad. During the pandemic, it seemed like there seemed to be more security threats. Can you just tell us why that might have been and what you can do to protect ourselves or the company?
Yeah, I think the reason that there were a lot more is because most people were working from home, and a lot more of the way that we were interacting with each other was via email and digital methods rather than the personal face-to-face. So the scammers use this as an opportunity to try and send more emails and more scams through that way. And like I said earlier, for us, we have adopted what we call a zero trust strategy, which is, against sort of human nature, but it's to treat pretty much everything we get as suspicious until we can verify it using some of the methods that Constable Jenny mentioned earlier, where you might actually call someone and ask them, did they send you that email? Or
So Deborah mentioned that Willoughby was a target. How did you find out that we were a target for hackers?
Some of the attempts are quite poor. So it's pretty easy these days to spot. The language used in the emails is not well constructed. The email addresses, they haven't tried very hard to hide those. So we've had so many attempts that we're quite used to spotting the signs.
And what about more sophisticated attempts? Or would that be telling?
That'd be telling. Yeah.
And you did mention too several times about passwords and the importance about good passwords. Can you give any tips about developing a strong password?
The approach has changed a little bit these days, and we're tending to move to passphrases. So that we did go through a period where strong passwords were uppercase characters and really hard passwords to remember. And what we found was that the more complex the passwords were, the harder they were to remember. So people didn't use them. So the advice these days is to move to passphrases, where a sentence or something that is unique to you. My favorite loves is chicken, chips and gravy, or something that is really, really unique, and something that you can remember, but still be strong.
That's a great idea. I'd never thought of doing that. Always was the dog's name and something else, Yeah.
Yep.
But,
which a Facebook search would probably reveal
very easily
your dog's name or whatever it is and people do it because they need to be able to remember it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that is a great tip indeed. Any tips for storing those passwords? You mentioned don't put them on your contact list. Any tricks there that you can impart?
There are some apps that are quite secure that will allow you to store your passwords. But what I would say is that whatever email address you use as your recovery email for all of your banking and is never store it or write it down. You just need to remember it.
Oh, okay. So sometimes you just have to remember.
Sometimes you just have to remember.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is that if your Gmail account is used for your recovery password, if someone gets hold of that, then they now are in control of resetting all of your passwords for all of your apps and things. So at least if you are going to remember one, make sure it's for the email address that you use to log into your accounts.
And how safe is face recognition?
It's pretty safe. Yeah. And obviously during the COVID pandemic, it was quite difficult to use your phone when you were wearing a mask. So it doesn't take much to upset the phone's recognition to it not let you in, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So a combination of facial recognition or gestures or fingerprint is a great way to protect your at least be the first protection for your mobile device.
There you go. And we have got a question that's come through, which says, can the business email compromise fraud mentioned in the previous presentation be caused by people using unsecured Wi-Fi?
Definitely. So if you are using an unsecured Wi-Fi and you're typing in your password to access your email account, then it is possible that could be intercepted.
Right. So what would your top tips be for people keeping themselves safe, do you think?
Top tips would be treat everything as suspicious.
Yep.
And use the support that's available to you. So use your internet service provider to help you secure your devices. Use your phone service provider. So go to the Telstra shop, go to the Vodafone shop and get them to help you, or the Apple store. Some of these things can be a little bit challenging, but there's people out there that can actually help you. So don't be afraid to give them a call or go into the store and get them to help you.
So how would you find someone to help?
In the store?
Well, no, in general, like, if I'm there thinking, oh gosh, I've got an issue, I want to just get some help. Are there places that you should look? Do you need to find someone reputable to assist, or how do you source somebody?
I guess there's places like Gigs to Us that can help you, but I would start with my actual internet service provider that I purchase my internet from. And get them to give you some help. And also, like I said, if you can help get help from the mobile phone stores as well, can help you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And just a personal question, airdrop. I love airdropping photos. Is that a safe way to do an exchange of photographs?
It's reasonably safe if you were to just turn it on and turn it off as you need it. So if you're leaving airdrop turned on all of the time, I guess that provides a bit of a safety risk that, especially if you're connected to an unsecure Wi-Fi network, then people may be able to drop photos to you that you might not want to see, or the reverse.
Oh, there you go. Well, Brad, I do want to give a shout out to you and your team. Anything else that you wanted to cover this evening, or we've
No, I think that covers
given it a
most
pretty
of
good. How about you, Deborah?
No, all good. But while you're giving a shout out to the team, I think through COVID, us having to go online as a council and to run so many of our community engagement sessions online, as well as all staff communicating online, was a real testament, I think, to our IT crew.
Thank you.
Yes,
Well done.
I know, and I know that we've been in the chamber trying to Zoom people in, and there's been people. It's been a very complex thing for council to change completely the way that we've done our meetings, not only our full council meetings, but also community meetings like this evening even. So as Deborah said, really thank you very much. I know it's just not you. We've got other members of the team too who have worked tirelessly, and I know that there's been a lot of hours that have gone into it, and considering the cyber safety and all those other issues that you've had to address. So we really appreciate all those efforts. Thank you very much. And we've got Jenny over the side there who's done some fantastic presentations. Thank you, Jenny. And as you said, if anyone's got concerns, they can always ring the police station or the raft of other resources that we've explored this evening. Terrific tips for keeping us all safe, not only us, but our children as well. Very much appreciate it. So until next time, thank you very much for tuning in, and good night.